Pop Culture Addicts. Our guest today is an actor who got his start at the tender age of 6 in this business as one of the Lost Boys in Steven Spielberg's Peter Pan adaptation called Hook. Very popular movie. A lot of us have seen it. A lot of us grew up with that movie. But since the days of being the character Too Small, he's gone on to become a director, a writer, and a musician. So I am very pleased and honored to welcome Thomas Tulak to Pop Culture Addicts. Welcome to the show, Thomas.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. I'm very, very excited to talk to you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on doing here on the show is that we like to make sure that we do our due diligence when it comes to doing research and finding out about the guests. And especially when I found out that you were a musician, because I always like to find out what music people are creating. I love music. There's always a bit of a soundtrack going. I'm a little worried that I just did this next to my head.
There's a soundtrack going, but you don't like musicals.
That's different, entirely different.
But is it?
Oh, it is. It's completely different. I'm pretty sure that Metallica and Megadeth aren't playing in most musicals. Anyway. He's like,
not yet, anyway.
They are all older gentlemen now with kids. You never know.
They did a Queen musical.
Anyway, so I was out looking around the interwebs, and I found some of your music out on Reverb Nation. And immediately the nerd in me had to stop and listen to a song because the title of the song amused me. I Am Groot.
Okay.
But even more so, the name of the band amused me more. Deep Thought, spelled T-H-O-T. Now,
okay. Let me real quick. So, Deep Thought it's a project where I play all the instruments. I write all the music and engineer. Basically, it's my own kind of little side passion project. But here's the thing. I have been doing that, making music under that name or with that model for a while now. And when I first put that together under the name Deep Thought, it was a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And then when I started posting music under that name, it has been informed to me that the term thought, spelled T-H-O-T, means something entirely other. So I have since then changed the name of this musical project from Deep Thought to Giant Robots in the Sky. So if you go to, thank you, if you go to any one of the music streaming platforms, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, you'll find 2 albums under the name Giant Robots in the Sky that feature myself playing all of the instruments.
okay. I'm okay with that.
Over here Googling what the other thing means. Nothing. Nope. Ignore me.
No, I saw the name of Deep Thought, and honestly, it made me chuckle a little giggle. I did not even think of Hitchhiker's Guide. I thought of the other thing. And
see, whereas I went Hitchhikers because that's where my brain goes, and then you're like, how? And then the other thing, and I'm like, wait, what's the? Oh, never mind.
Oh, something entirely other than I was not trying to go there.
So Hitchhikers is over here.
Yes,
Thought is over here.
Yes.
There goes the last amount of my innocence.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
Completely divergent from one another.
Something I was completely unaware of when I started promoting my music under that name.
So I have to ask about the song, though. I Am Groot.
Sure. Okay.
Is there a lyrical translation somewhere or a small trash panda to translate for us?
You would actually, you'd have to study Groot. They take it as an elective on Asgard, though. So
fair enough.
I worked diligently with a translator, but I told the mood that I wanted and where I was trying to go with the lyrics, and what I got back is what the song is. So
I loved it. Actually, I thought it was very entertaining. So
thank you.
So Tim graciously told me that he would save all of the Hook nostalgic questions for me, since it was one of my favorite movies and still is one of my favorite movies. We watched it like less than a month ago, and my 3-year-old thought it was the best thing ever because pirates and sword fights, and who doesn't love it?
Right.
So I've realized, though, that growing up watching it and now watching it as an adult, that movie does not get old at all. And watching it as a kid, you relate to the Lost Boys. Watching it as an adult, you realize you start to relate to Peter, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. No, I want to be the Lost Boy. I want to go back to that. What happened to me?
Right.
But I love Too Small.
Oh,
He's my favorite. He's always been my favorite because I'm the youngest of 4 and I was always too little to go do what my siblings were doing.
okay.
So the line at the end when Peter tells them to all look after somebody smaller than them, and you do well, who do I look after? The Neverbugs, the little ones. I'm like, I adore that moment.
Aw.
And I'm just going to nerd out about that moment for a minute. But I've got a few Hook questions that I've kind of combined into one.
Okay.
Because as a kid, what was it like? What was it like getting to work with Robin Williams? I mean, that's a huge, huge thing for this to be your first movie, and then to be in a Steven Spielberg movie with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman, and those are huge names. But what was Robin like?
Well, when you're 6 and 7 years old, you really don't understand how big those names are. So I had no idea the gravity of the company that I was in. I just saw, I saw Robin as Robin, and he addresses you on your level, no matter what level you're on. So there's never any kind of, ego or setting himself above or whatever. So in my eyes, Robin was always just like, a buddy, like the big brother that I never had. I'm the oldest in my family, and so I don't have a big brother. And so, yeah, Robin was just kind of like my big brother. Like the best times I had on set were hanging out with him off camera. Like we were playing, this is back in, before wireless games and whatever. So we had Game Boys that you had to connect with a 3-foot cable. And so we would hang out and play video games together. And I'd connect my Game Boy to his, and we would play, or we'd play basketball. There was a basketball court outside by the trailers, and we just hanging out and having fun. And I didn't know until I was much older, like who he was, and who all the people that were on. There were a lot of big names on that set, and I had no idea until I was older and could understand a little bit more what exactly all was happening. So. Yeah, Robin was just, he was like the best friend and the best big brother that you could ever want. All the things that you hear about him, about how wonderful he is, it's all true.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, because we all love him. We all adore him. We loved his movies. We loved his work. And I can only imagine how cool it would be to get to say, hey, I knew him.
Oh, yeah.
I got to work with him. Like...
Very cool. And he's always held, and to this day and until I die, a special place in my heart. Just for, he was the kind of, like, he genuinely was enriched by bringing happiness to others. See, he wasn't trying to advance a cause or anything. He genuinely just liked making other people smile and laugh and feel good. And, that's who he was. And that's something I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. That's
so cool. That is so cool. So, I mean, you said that it wasn't until you were older that you realized how cool that was, how many of those big names you were working with. Are you still in touch with any of the former cast members? I mean, it's been over 30 years at this point.
I like to think that some of them might remember me. But really the only ones that I've had any contact with are some of the other Lost Boys. There was one Lost Boy, Pockets, Isaiah Robinson, who is close to my age. And he and I were kind of like good friends on the set. And so he and I have more or less kept in contact over the years. And then I've had contact with or seen some of the other Lost Boys here and there. I went to lunch with James Madio a while back, and I was on Dante Bosco's film set recently, a few years ago. It was a few years back. It wasn't recently, but
there's this whole weird pandemic thing that's made time not make any sense.
It's really true. But Dante was producing a fan film Rufio sequel, or a prequel. Ooh. I'm sorry, prequel, not sequel, prequel. A prequel telling the story of how Rufio gets to Neverland, and he was producing it, and he invited me to hang out with him on set, and they were going to work in a cameo for me if they had time, which they didn't have time. But That's okay. It was fun to hang out, and Jim Hart was there, who wrote the screenplay, and just it was fun to be there and see what they were doing and be a part of it. So there's that. That's out on YouTube. It's been out for a while now. It's called Bangarang, the Rufio prequel, which it's a fun little thing. If you're a fan of Rufio. So
that's so cool. That's really cool. I will have to check that out because I am a fan of Rufio.
Well, there you go. But yeah, they're mostly just the other Lost Boys. I haven't really been in contact with anyone else. I did speak to Robin on the phone probably, 10 years ago. I reached out to, maybe a little bit more than 10 years ago, like 2009, 10, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. I had reached out to, his manager and just kind of said, yeah, this is who I am. I just wanted to get back in touch with my old friend. And one afternoon, he kind of just calls my cell phone and I sit and talk with him for about 20, 30 minutes. So that was fun. Yeah. But that's basically it.
Okay. That's still really cool. That's still cool. Yeah. You still got to talk to Robin Williams.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Thomas, being a father, I'm big into dad jokes and wordplay, and which is also why I think I liked the deep thought reference earlier. But I also noticed on your IMDb list that there was a movie called Dun 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 It, or Who Dun 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 It, which also made me laugh because all I could think of then was the music dun dun dun, in murder mysteries. And I may have been walking around my house all day going dun dun dun. Honestly, it's more than I want to admit. But I was originally going to ask you about that, but then the Star Wars nerd in me told me that I have to ask you about your fanfic that you made called The Saber, which I found to be really interesting because it's set in like modern time Earth, which out of all the fan films I've ever seen, and I've watched a lot of Star Wars fan films, because if it's Star Wars, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to need to take that into my brain somehow. But I've never seen one that was set in modern day Earth. And I thought the story behind it was kind of both really interesting, but also kind of a play on our modern world and where kind of some things are at. Where did you come up with the story from? Because it credits you as the writer and the director. Where did you come up with the story from, and how did you go about making it?
Well, first of all, don't ever be ashamed to sing "Dun Dun Dun It," because nothing wrong with that at all. Especially considering that the film is called "Who Dun 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 It," and it is actually a murder mystery, and it is the play on that accent, that musical accent, dun dun dun. That's exactly what the film is. Who dun 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 it. So. Perfect. And I'm that's something I've been working on now. It's my current project. I'm in post-production on that, which will be the first feature film to carry my name as writer and director. So
awesome.
Hit that nail right on the head. But for The Saber, so I wanted to bring the world of Star Wars into my world, essentially. So I've been a huge Star Wars fan since I was a small kid. I used to, like everybody else, grab whatever thing I could, and it's a lightsaber, and I'm doing all that. So, but Star Wars has always been away from Earth. It's on another planet in a galaxy far, far away, a long time ago, and all that. So I wanted to tell a Star Wars story that brings it into my world, into the world that I see. So it plays on the idea that the events of Star Wars actually happened a long time ago in another galaxy, and we are now in the future from what that was, from those events. And so within the world of the story, the war between the good side and the bad side continued until the bad side eventually won, and Jedi are outlawed, or Jedi are extinct, and use of the Force is outlawed, and the Empire is just rolling through the galaxy, conquering planet after planet with nothing to stop them. And now they have reached Earth, and they are taking over Earth. But all of the characters are, they have an earthbound appearance. And so instead of, lasers and blaster guns, they're wielding pistols with bullets.
Right.
And instead of looking like stormtroopers, they're looking like SWAT team members.
Right.
And
yeah.
And so my Darth Vader type character, Darth Van Aden, instead of full body armor, he's got a ankle length leather trench coat, like you would have seen in World War II or something. And so my Emperor character is a old white guy in a suit, So I took it into our world, and then within this world, with the dark side just kind of reigning supreme, they find a lightsaber, and they discover that the main character discovers she can actually feel the Force and wield a saber and conquer some bad guys. And so yes, I wrote it, directed it, and edited it, and I'm very proud to be trying to promote it and get it out there. It's been in a few festivals, and I'm trying to get it into Comic-Con, but I haven't heard back from them.
One of the things I found most interesting, you mentioned the main character there, is that, and I'm spoiler alert for anybody who's going to watch it later. So, maybe like, earmuffs or something. But I thought
put an ending of a spoiler warning up on the screen. It'll be
there. You go.
I thought it was kind of interesting though, that at first she went to try the saber when, it was first brought into her home. And she was like scared to touch it, and then it wouldn't work. Like she reached over and hit the button, nothing happened. It was almost like a sense of relief. She did a really good job of emoting that there was a sense of relief that, okay, I can't do it, so it's not me. I won't get in trouble. And then in the moment when it was needed, then she was able to use the Force. I thought that was a really cool way of doing it. Plus, the way that she defeated the bad guy, I also kind of like.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, we played into some deep. Canon in the world that the kyber crystal inside the lightsaber connects to the wielder through the Force. And so I played with, if Force has been outlawed and Jedis are extinct and nobody can make that connection through the Force to the kyber crystal, then maybe the kyber crystal that is a bit alive, according to Star Wars canon, maybe they close down in on themselves and kind of just shut down. And so in the world of my film, it requires somebody who is Force sensitive for it to sense that connection and activate. So if you're not Force sensitive, you can't turn on a lightsaber. And so while she is Force sensitive, the main character, she doesn't know it yet. So the first time she tries to turn it on, she isn't aware of that connection. She doesn't make it. And so she tries to turn it on and it doesn't turn on. But it's after, her, we're talking spoilers, but later on when it is needed, she feels it and the Force kind of comes to her aid, and there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I thought that was a really cool way to do it. I thought, because a lot of times when watching some, especially when it comes to fan films, sometimes the story isn't very well laid out, so you don't understand the hero's journey, and her being the hero of the film, it was easy for me to understand rather her journey and how she got to where she was at and why now the Force was active in her. Where I've seen other fan films where it's just like, they walk up, I'm the hero, here we go, there we go, let's do this, but I thought it was really nice how you played into that, and that the Force had to become activated. And so well done, man.
Other fan films.
Thank you so much.
Sequel trilogy.
Well, the sequel trilogy is a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. But it was very important to me to do exactly that. Before I made this, I watched a lot of fan films, and there are a few things that I noticed. A lot of them they seem lacking in the story department. Maybe they're just an excuse to have a lightsaber duel or show off some special effects techniques or whatever, but the story is a little lacking. And I'm not calling out any specific fan films. There are a lot of great ones out there. But
completely understood.
But another thing that I kept noticing was that a lot of the acting was not very good. And so I set out to make one that put the story first and featured talented actors. And I happen to know a lot of talented actors that were more than well, because they're all Star Wars geeks too. So they're all great actors in their own right, and they were all, you know, willing to come in and like, yeah, let's do a thing. And so it was done for a very small budget. I'm not showing off a lot of special effects. I'm putting the story first and acting, and it's exactly like you said. I wanted to the audience to be able to understand, you know, what's driving the main character and everything. And to that point, the film is 20 minutes long, and the lightsaber duel is only like a minute and change. Right. So most of what's happening is story and character development and world building. And that was kind of exactly my goal from the onset when I first started writing the script, is to do exactly that.
You know, so
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So Kathleen and I actually hosted another show called Funny Science Fiction Podcast, and we do a live show every Monday night. And actually Monday night we were talking about science, you know, clearly science fiction, but Star Wars in general. And we were talking about how a lot of the times most of us that were on the panel that night agreed that most of the times we enjoy Star Wars more when there's less use of the lightsaber, when there's less use of Force, when there's actually a story being told. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I love Rogue One so much, is that it's very well written. There is some, you know, lightsaber use, there is some Force use, but it's a minor part of the story. We're learning all these other things. And I thought that was something that you also kind of tapped into. Yeah, there's a lightsaber there. You know, most of the time that the lightsaber is used, it's just that, like, you know, the one kid's holding it up, or somebody's holding it and with it lit up. And then, like you said, that there's a very small lightsaber battle. So I thought that was really cool, where it wasn't, you know, the staple, because a lot of fan films, it's you know, hey, this guy learned how to do some you know, some really neat flip, you know, things that he could do with his lightsaber and, you know, make it look cool. And that's all great and good. And I enjoy watching those just as much as the next guy, don't get me wrong, but I also like a good story. And I thought that you did well with that. And so I really did appreciate the fact that it wasn't just all just, you know, so.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Speaking of lightsabers.
Yes.
Mine will be in the mail soon.
Yeah.
My husband bought me a lightsaber.
All right. Do you know who you ordered from?
Level Up Lightsabers. He's our affiliate for our other show.
So yeah, we're
friends with Alan.
Yeah, the owner of the.
So wait, so you guys have a working relationship with
we
the guys
have
at Level Up?
a working relationship with
Level Up Lightsabers. Yeah,
lightsaber. Yeah.
So he's our show partner for Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
Oh, so you guys might have to connect me, because I actually collect lightsabers.
We will totally connect you. I'll
hook you up.
He just finished his pre-sale for his Zeopixel lightsabers.
Ooh, okay.
Which are beautiful.
He's got some cool stuff coming.
That is not the one that I got, but he was showing it off Monday night, and as he can do the full rainbow spectrum, just as like, it's beautiful.
It's good times.
So pretty.
I believe you. I've seen some of them on Instagram and things, and I've been looking into Level Up. Like that's impressive.
And I love that his tagline, his selling point is that they're better than a stick.
It's true,
right?
As he's smashing them up against, like, you know, telephone poles and posts and all these things, better than a stick, and it won't break. Click, 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 click.
Right, like the base light ones. The base light ones are combat ready, prepared, or whatever. So, like, yeah, he's got videos on TikTok and on Instagram of him smashing them into into poles.
Wow.
The Zeopixel ones, he's like, these are for cosplay because you don't want to destroy the LED lights in it. And I'm
be
like,
a little more careful with those.
That totally makes
be
sense.
Aware.
But when you buy a lightsaber from him, you also get a year's subscription to his online training class.
Oh, okay. That's really cool.
Teaches you to use your lightsaber.
It's pretty cool stuff.
That's really cool. I helped out a friend of mine on another Star Wars fan film that they were working on, and as far as I know, I don't think it's completed yet. It was kind of recent, but on that set they were using I think they were just using Ultra Sabers, lightsabers. And the two guys that were dueling were fighting so hard they ended up breaking like 3 blades.
Oh no.
That gets expensive real quick.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So for him to show off that those blades are a little bit more durable like that says a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we have ventured down the path of nerdiness, that's
what we do.
In my research, I've actually found a Reddit post of yours from like 7 years ago.
Uh-oh.
Right. Like
I love the concern. Oh God. Oh no.
The Reddit post itself was not like the main concern to me. I mean, it was an Ask Me Anything post. But in your bio, you mentioned you could talk Doctor Who for days.
I can indeed, yes.
Coming from somebody who was dressed as River Song when my now husband proposed to me.
Okay.
We had a TARDIS ring box at our wedding. I got super excited with the yay, another Whovian.
I had a TARDIS cufflinks from my wedding tux.
Awesome. I have a pewter TARDIS necklace that my husband bought me at the Ren Fest too. Like, I mean, it's a big thing. So, who's your favorite Doctor? Who's your favorite companion? And they don't have to be the two who travel together. Okay.
Oh man. So I think Matt Smith edges out as my favorite. He has range. You know, he seeing him, just his performance is so just layered and so good. And it's been a tough call with all of the modern Doctors. David Tennant's really good. I really like Peter Capaldi. I feel like Peter Capaldi and Jodie Whittaker have not had the best storylines to work with, but as far as their performances, they've been great. But yeah, I gotta say, and a lot of the classic Who, you know, is great. Like I feel like second would probably be Tom Baker, because you got to give it up for the classics. But I do feel like, yeah, Matt Smith edges out as my favorite, just enough. When
companions.
Companions. Oh man. I do like Rose, but there's, as much as I like Rose, and the tough kind of warrior she eventually becomes, I did kind of feel like there's a little bit of like toxic codependentness with Rose. So as great as Rose is, I might need to go with probably someone like Donna, who's a little bit more, you know, can stand on her own 2 feet and kind of thing. Yeah. Or I like Amy and Rory too.
Amy and Rory are a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you got to have them both. You can't have one without the other. Yeah, but yeah, they're a lot of fun, and their story that they have together, it's very heartwarming, I think.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're going to look at Romana from Classic Who was also a Time Lord, so that's worth bringing up too. So
true, and I liked Sarah Jane, and then I liked getting the Sarah Jane Chronicles too, the Sarah Jane spinoff.
Yeah, it was also very good. And then little tidbit when the 11th Doctor appeared on the Sarah Jane Chronicles, and he started talking about how he could regenerate. What was it? He said something like hundreds of times on there. It was a joke, people. He can't really regenerate that many times.
Right. We are running out of regenerations, but we're not, because they'll find some reason that we're not.
Exactly.
So my parents got me into Doctor Who when it came back in 2005.
Okay.
And we had BBC America at that point. My parents had watched Classic Who. My mom's got a framed picture of Tom Baker. Like, I mean, it was a big thing. And so when it came back and my dad's like, you gotta watch this. I'm like, why? Why? And that first episode with the Nestine Conchas and the plastic, and I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I have ever seen. This is so stupid.
Yeah.
Plastic Mickey in the restaurant. And I'm like,
yeah, I can see.
This is awful. This is awful. The episode got over and I looked at my dad and I'm like, when's the next one? Like in its terrible, cheesy Britishness, I'm like,
you got hooked right away.
I need more.
Yeah.
I need more. So,
yeah, for sure.
But David Tennant's my favorite. But I feel like 11's storyline is better.
I think 11's storyline, is more succinct within itself.
Mm-hmm.
I binged the show recently during the pandemic when I ran out of other things to watch, so I went back and watched it again for the 100th time. But when you binge it, and you get, by the time you get up to Tennant and you get hooked into you get enthralled in Smith's overall story that is, succinct from start to finish, you get connected into this ongoing storyline, and then it gets to Peter Capaldi, and that more or less kind of goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to the one-off I think episodes that it had been previously, and it's hard to maintain that level of interest when it gets to that point.
Because like you had the Bad Wolf storyline, you had the Who is River Song storyline, and I feel like they were trying to do that with Clara, and then they fell apart.
They fell apart pretty quickly. Yeah,
never really, like, I know I've seen the end of it. I know that I've seen the end of her storyline, but I don't remember it. I don't remember who she is or why she was important, or it just kind of fizzled into nothing with the, okay.
It was very intriguing at first, the Clara storyline, when they started hinting at here she is and then she died. Oh, and then here she is again and she dies again. And here she is again. Like that's the kind of mystery that keeps you in. But then by the time, that ends, it's like, oh, well, and then the game's over seconds later.
So Souffle Girl is nothing, or why?
Yeah. It goes back to, like I said, the actors are great, but I feel like they don't have the best writing and stories to work with.
And then there's talk of Davies coming back to write.
I've heard, and I'm super excited.
I feel like that's gonna make a difference.
I've not been very much on board with the Chibnall era. I have a lot of things that could be a whole other podcast, but I've got a lot of things.
I haven't even seen any of the Jodie Whittaker episodes yet. Like, as much of a diehard Doctor Who fan as I am, it was I got lost halfway through Capaldi's, and I'm like, I don't.
I'm diehard enough that I'm still watching, and I've still seen all of Jodie's seasons, and I've seen every single episode that has come out. But there are many episodes, especially during Jodie Whittaker's era, that I don't think I'll watch again. And a lot of that is because of the writing, because of the direction that Chris Chibnall has taken the show. And so I'm very excited to hear that Russell T Davies is coming back, because Russell T Davies brings some epic storytelling that was there in the beginning. It was largely because of Russell Davies that the show revised itself in 2005 from the beginning. So I'm very excited to have him coming back.
And I mean, like, I'm working my way back through it, and I'm going to get through these episodes. I am just getting to the end of Amy and Rory again. Okay. Which is really hard.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm getting there. But then I have HBO, and it's like, hey, you might also like, I'm like, oh yeah, Torchwood's on here too. Focus for 5 minutes.
Right.
Stop it. But then I'm like, wait, what if I find online where the episodes are chronological and I watch them in order like you do with Angel and Buffy? And it's like, no, finish this, then that, be okay.
Yeah.
I'll get there eventually. And Tim's over there with the la 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 la.
I'm just waiting for you guys to start using your Muggle words. So,
Well, the sonic screwdriver is a step away from a magic wand anyway.
Well, so. It really is.
It's essentially the same thing in my opinion, but
because Tim watched like the first episode. Tim's seen the Rose episode, and I think that's about it.
Yeah, there's so many good episodes. If you're gonna watch the show and just watch one episode, there's so many better ones to watch.
Like Blink.
Blink is a classic example of a great first episode that just brings you right in. But there's so many
sci-fi,
so many well-written, really just gripping. I keep telling people that Doctor Who is some of the best television that you'll ever watch, and some of the worst television you'll ever watch.
Well, I think the couple episodes that because my wife likes Doctor Who, and I think the couple episodes that I've watched somehow happen to be the bad ones, because I walked in and I caught a couple minutes of it, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. And
even the Shakespeare episode with Ten and Martha,
Yeah, it's
kind of horrible.
It kind of is horrible. You got to remember that when the show was originally created, it was meant as an educational thing. Like he was kind of a teacher, and he was a time travel so that he could go back and teach history.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to keep some of that going with the show. So every season there'll be at least one episode where they go back in time and meet some famous historical figure. And those episodes where there's not always room for some alien intervention, which is what the heart of the show is, they have to put that in though. So you're dealing with like the William Shakespeare episode, there's still aliens in it. Like, because there has to be, because it's a sci-fi thing. So, but it doesn't always need the aliens, you know?
Somehow the aliens are witches, but they're not.
Yeah. Now, consequently, if you set the weaker episodes aside and you look at the stronger ones like Blink or Midnight, for example.
Ooh, Midnight's
oh yeah, Midnight's such a good episode. There's so many really good ones that are just gripping and have you at the edge of your seat, you know. And so you kind of have to take the good with the bad, you know.
Midnight's one of those that I forget about, and then I like see it in the lineup, and I'm like, oh right.
I feel very strongly Midnight could make a live action play, and I think that could be done very well. So, but yeah, you got to if you're getting start, you got to start with the right. Rose is not a great episode to start on.
It's really not.
It's not.
It's not.
Especially, coming into it with little knowledge, like as the first introduction to the show, not so much. It's better once you've been connected to the show and then you go back and catch up, just so that you can at least say you've seen all the episodes.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the only reason that in 2005 it got me so much is I was 13.
Mm.
And so the action adventure aspect of it got me. And then because I was a nerd being raised by nerds, it was wait a minute, this is sci-fi, like Deep Space Nine and Star Wars, and this is space and weird, and I can do this. I can get behind that.
I got into the show in the 2-year gap between David Tennant and Matt Smith. So David Tennant's era was done, and they just hadn't released Matt Smith's first season yet. Mm-hmm. And so as I'm getting into it, I watch, a bunch of David Tennant episodes, and I'm just here for it, everything I'm seeing. And then once I'm in, I go back and I rewatch. I just binge all of Eccleston and Tennant. And so when I go back and I'm watching Rose, I'm seeing just how not great this episode is, but I'm noting it as I feel like what this episode is dealing with, I need to know for future episodes. Mm-hmm. So when they go back to this living plastic, I know what this is.
Right.
And then Matt Smith's season came out, and I just, oh my goodness, that was like a new level of genius there. And I full on fell in love with the show. Like hardcore, loyal forever kind of fell in love with the show. When they had episodes where he goes back in time to reference other episodes within the same, oh man, like an explosion went off in my head. And not only did it connect me to the show forever, but it altered the way that I write my own writing. And so now, since then, I'm a sucker for anything that's time travel. And so I write time travel, like it introduced me to a new way of thinking about time travel. So absolutely, like that was like season 5 with Matt Smith is like the best season of the show, hands down.
I agree.
Cool.
Real quick, before we change the subject, I will show my Whovian tattoo.
Ooh.
It's old High Gallifreyan, circular Gallifreyan. It says the word time, which also I'm a sucker for anything time travel, but also Time is the name of the first short film that I wrote and directed that got into a film festival. So it's got like double meaning.
Cool.
And when you pulled up your sleeve, the first thing I saw was, ooh, Death Star. So,
Yeah.
I get that a lot, or like a steampunk Pac-Man or something like that. Yeah.
High Gallifreyan, it makes sense.
It's just, it's the Star Wars in me. I can't help it.
It's a word in a fake language from a sci-fi show.
Fair enough.
Sorry, I know people who have tattoos in Elven, so it's...
There you go.
It all works. I'm good with it. So back in 2017, to change the topic just a little bit here, or actually
back to something that Tim actually understands.
Back to the Muggle words. That's why I like to put it.
Okay.
And back in 2017, you wrote a blog post on this for the Shareable Film School and about being an indie filmmaker. And you talked about facing despair and loneliness in the pursuit of following your dreams.
My goodness, you really do your homework, don't you?
Oh, we try. We really do try. We call it research. It's virtual stalking, but we like to call it research. There's one line in that blog, though, that really stood out to me as an indie podcaster. So, and I'm hoping that you can expound on this just a little bit. In the blog, you said, once you decide what you want to do with your life, every decision that follows must be in support of that. So what I'm hoping you can tell me is, how has that proven true in your life? And how do you encourage people to pursue their dreams while you're still working towards pursuing your own?
Well, it's like this. We are only given a finite amount of time on this planet. And that amount of time is very short in retrospect, So on like, at most, any of us are given 80, maybe 90 years. And I think the average lifespan is a lot less.
Right.
And so, so we have a limited amount of time. And when we get to the point where that time is running out, we're going to realize just how short it is, just how short it was. And so, when you get to that point, do you want to look back on your life and realize that you spent it doing things you didn't want to do? Or do you want to look back on your life and be able to say that, you had a thing that you wanted to do and you pursued it and you did it? And whether or not you make it is beside the point. I always tell people the only true failure is when you quit trying. Until then, you just haven't made it yet, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And so it's like, we could easily just go get a job and go to work and work for somebody else and just live our lives that way. But do you want to keep doing something you don't want to do, or do you want to pursue your dreams and at least try and keep trying until you either make it or you die? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, in my own life, I've known ever since the days of Hook, watching Steven Spielberg do his thing, that I wanted to be a director, I wanted to be a writer, I want to be a filmmaker. And since that same time, watching Robin Williams do his thing, I've known that I wanted to make people laugh, make people smile. And I believe that laughter is the greatest gift anyone can give. And so my whole life I've known I want to direct and make movies that make people laugh. And so I've been doing that for the past more than a decade now. I've been making content in, web shows, series, short films, whatever, and just doing it however I can, doing what it is that I want to do and trying, And now I am making my first feature-length movie that is a comedy that, and it's like, this is I've decided that that's what I want to do. And anything else that I do with my life, any other decision that I make that is not in direct support of that, is in opposition to that. So, once you decide you want to do something, you either do it or you hurt it,
Right.
So if you decide you want to be a thing, you want to do a thing with your life, and then you go do something else, you're taking away from that thing that you want to do. No one's going to do it for you. You're not going to get there by any other means than your own doing it. So it's time to get up and go pursue your thing and just make the decision and follow through, because that's the only way you're going to get there.
Cool. I like it.
Awesome. So again, in the researching, it sounds way less creepy that way.
That's okay.
Put a pretty bow on it and you call it research, and suddenly you don't get hit with personal protective.
No worries.
Right?
I was a little worried when you brought up that Shareable blog, because I wrote for them. I wrote like weekly for Shareable for like 6 months. I don't remember a lot of the things I wrote. It was years ago. So I was like, oh no, what is he going to ask? Fortunately, you touched on the one thing that's like a life motto of mine. So, whew, but like,
you're safe.
Yay.
But according to your biography on your IMDb, which says was written by you, so I'm hoping that this is accurate, you're also a newlywed.
Yes. Yeah. We are hitting our 1-year anniversary next month.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you kindly.
That is super exciting. My husband and I just celebrated our 7th anniversary in December, and Tim and his wife are flipping amazing and celebrated 24 years.
24, yeah.
Wow.
On Monday, last Monday, which
that's
is
impressive.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
Yeah, especially if you live with me. My wife's a saint. So
she's amazing.
yes, she is.
Tim's a butthead.
Yes, I am.
So how has it been adjusting to married life while trying to navigate this wonderful global pandemic?
So my wife and I have, we've known each other going on 6 years now, I think. And so we were friends for a number of years first, and then we dated for a little over a year and a half, I think, something like that, before we actually moved in together. And then we moved in together the very week the pandemic started.
Oh boy.
Same week. So literally it was like beginning of the week, and we got the lease on our place, and end of that week, and they're announcing the pandemic and stay-at-home orders and all of this. So from the moment the pandemic started, we had already been living together. And then we had plans to, get married, and originally it was going to be the typical, wedding with all your friends and family and church and all this and all that. But those plans were pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, and it became, okay, well, we can't do that anymore. So we're going to put our wedding plans on hold until such time as we can do that. And then the pandemic just kept going and kept going and kept going. And so eventually, we hit a point where we're already living together. So we don't want to we don't know how much longer this pandemic's going to be. We don't know when we'll be able to get all of our extended family and everybody together in the same place again. Right. So we're just going to alter our plans. And instead we did we call it the COVID wedding, where we just had her siblings and her father and my siblings and my father. And that was it, because those are the people that we were already having contact with on a regular basis anyways. And we just, we got together and streamed it live for anybody who couldn't make it. And we just did a small little ceremony, COVID ceremony like that. Which it was lightsaber themed. So we had, that's part of what started my my lightsaber collection, because we did one of those lightsaber arches that we go out underneath. So we had like a dozen lightsabers in that.
That's cool.
But yeah, so by the time the wedding was done and that was all said and done, and now I've got the ring on my finger, we kind of just, we went home and went back to the same living together in a pandemic that we had already been doing for more than a year at that point anyways. So when people ask me, how's married life in a pandemic? It's like, well, it's not honestly all that different than living together in the pandemic was before the wedding.
Right.
So,
fair enough.
I have been to 3 Zoom weddings since the pandemic started, which is crazy. It's weird. Like I have a friend who's already had her first wedding anniversary, and I'm like, I haven't even seen you in person since you got married. This is bull crap.
Yeah.
I went to 2, and the second they turned around to walk down the aisle, I'm sitting there with a Guinness. All right, let's do this.
Right? Like the only complaint I have is if you're sending out Zoom invitations, can you also send out Grubhub? Can we still get our reception food? Because
there you go.
This Zoom wedding and then cooking my own dinner, kind of sucks.
For real,
where's my cake?
There you go.
No, my brother and sister-in-law got married in November of 2019.
Oof.
They had a long distance relationship. She lived in Arizona. We live in Michigan.
Oh, that's rough.
So they went from long distance relationship to freshly married, freshly living together, pandemic.
Now that is a culture shock.
It really was.
And somehow Fred's still alive.
And somehow Fred's still alive. Yeah.
Well, Fred got lucky.
He really, really did. He really did. But then it's all of a sudden the pandemic. Fred works from home. It's like, oh, you went from living time zones away from each other to you're in
our whole world upside down.
You're in a 2-bedroom apartment, stuck with that boy all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's a whole new life. A whole new
the
world.
Number of text messages I got from my sister-in-law, and I'm like, I lived with him for 22 years, honey. Mm-mm.
Yeah, we were kind of hoping you could fix him.
Right?
We handed him off to you. This is yours now.
Oh, we warned you. You said you wanted this.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da!
No,
I'm sorry. No,
They're...
dun, dun, dun. It's more appropriate.
There you go.
The fact that he's still alive is impressive.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I cannot imagine going from pandemic or going from casual dating to pandemic to.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to have to deal with.
Yes, it is.
I suppose I'm grateful that it happened for me and my wife the way that it did.
Yeah.
Because the transition has been, easy.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially compared to that,
I mean, it was hard enough for me with my daughter was 18 months old when the pandemic started. My mother-in-law lives with us. And so it was we've got grandma, we've got an 18-month-old, we've got me and my husband, we're good. We can handle this. She's now going on 3.5. And it's crap.
That right there is the kind of thing that just blows my mind. There are human beings born living right now who know nothing but pandemic life.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's just mind-boggling.
My youngest nephew will be 2 in June, and he's known nothing but people with face masks. And
people with face masks, and you can't hug your grandparents and your uncles and aunts, and like a whole world that is separated by 6 feet. And that's just...
The pandemic has been something else.
It really has, yeah. It's been rough.
It's been rough for sure.
I have friends who I haven't met their kids. I have friends who haven't met my kid. It's like, what is this?
I've met her kid and she's delightful.
She is delightful.
On the plus side, though, we are going through this in a time where we have social media and the internet and Zoom and things that allow us to stay connected when we can't be connected. And so we're living right now in the best possible time to have this pandemic. Could you imagine if this had happened back in the 90s when the internet was still new and we didn't have any of this?
Well, 14, that's like
14 hours later after the handshake. Yeah, no thanks.
We were watching, my husband had this Facebook post a week into the pandemic we were watching Little House on the Prairie, and they were quarantined for smallpox or something. I don't remember what it was. And they were talking about how it had been 4 days together. And I'm like, 4 days, really? Really? But also that was 4 days with no TV, no internet, no phones. You are literally stuck with the people who live inside of your walls.
No running water.
That's a whole different. At least here we can Grubhub and have dinner tonight delivered. That's a whole other.
I have 100 meg internet and Disney Plus. I'm good.
There you go. All right, Thomas, we have one final question for you, and we like to call it our silly question. We end every episode with this. Every episode gets a different question. So tonight, your question is, if you could be a superhero, any superhero, which one would you be and why?
Does it have to be a superhero that exists?
No.
Or do I get I could be my own
create
creation?
your own, yes. You can be Super Thomas if you want. I don't care.
Okay. I would have the superpower, the ability to telekinesis and telepathy. Mm. And I could move things with my mind. I could read people's minds. But I would not put on a costume and go out and fight crime. I would just be me, and I would use these superpowers to my own advantage. So, for example, I would, if I needed to lift something heavy or move or, whatever it is that I'm trying to do, I have my secret telepathy that no one knows about to make it easier to do. Or I could trick the accountant at the bank to slip some numbers, or I'm kidding, I'm not going to do that. But
when you sit down on your couch and realize the remote's across the room.
Oh, exactly. Or, just float it across the room, or just use my powers to turn the TV to whatever it needs to be. I would just use these powers to make my everyday life that much better.
When your
Fair
wife
enough.
says she's fine and nothing's upsetting her.
Exactly.
I can read the mind and figure out exactly what it is. Yeah.
You just Aquaman that situation, just boop, 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 So.
Sorry, the number of times that would have been so helpful.
Right. I can read the mind and know what it was that upset her before it even upsets her, and we avoid the whole thing in the beginning.
Problem is,
all the times when the husband says, "I'm not a mind reader," well, I would be the mind reader, and I would avoid the problem before it starts.
Usually I know what I got in trouble for, but there's been a couple times. But 90% of the time I know.
When you just come home with the, "Hey, I brought you what you wanted for dinner."
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Before she even realizes what it was she wanted for dinner.
Exactly.
No more of this.
Her,
Hey,
what
what
restaurant do you want to go to?
Exactly.
Thomas, we have enjoyed talking to you so much today. Where can our viewers and our listeners go to find out more about your work and just you in general?
Awesome. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. You could follow me on Instagram at @TNTulak. Or you can go over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Thomas Tulak. Or you can find me on Facebook, Thomas.Tulak, I think it is on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, but I don't really use Twitter all that much. But I think it's @TNTulak there too.
Okay. We will definitely link all of those. We will find them for you and double check and make sure that you got them right, and then link them.
There you go.
So that they can find you.
Yes, there you go.
All right. We want to remind everybody, too, that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help our show continue to grow and to make sure that we get more amazing guests like Thomas Tulak here today to have these great stories and share a few laughs with. So please subscribe. It's that little button down there somewhere down the bottom. It's going to pop up on the screen, too. But anyways,
wherever the editor put it this time.
Yeah, it moves around on the screen. Anyway, only hit it once. If you hit it twice, it undoes all the fun. So remember, kids, pop culture is all around us. It influences every part of our lives, everything that we do. So be sure to come back next week because we'll have your fix waiting right here for you on Pop Culture Addicts.
Thanks again, Thomas.
Yeah, no worries.
Come on, everybody. On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF Popcast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSFPopcast. Or go to www.fsfpopcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.